Welcome to Freethinkers Fireside. We put the human in humanist one cozy chat at a time. Hey, my name is Helen, also known as Hellsbell. So before we get to my guest tonight, I got a fundraiser I'm shilling for Black non-believers. So we're going to watch a promo video. Please let me know if you can hear the audio because I had audio issues the other night. That'd be really helpful. Hi, Felicia, honey. All right, hold on one moment. And hold on. Hold on. What happened? That was odd. What happened to my phone? Can you hear me? I lost the stream. Oh my God. There's no audio. There's no audio. What happened to my audio? What happened? Hold on one moment. Hold on, guys. Okay. Oh, I'm okay. I got, yeah. All right. Give me one moment. Okay. I'm going to figure out what happened. Hold on a second, Ross. I'm going to figure out what happened to my visual. I'll be right back. Give me a moment. So I don't know what happened. I also lost my audio too, which is weird. So I don't know what's going on. Although I'm all right, guys, I'm going to leave and come back. Let's see if it works. I'll be right back. Hang tight. Hear me now. No. Can you guys hear me? Can the chat hear me? No sound. There's no sound? Okay. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the sound went because it's registering
Can
on
you
my.
hear me? I'm not hearing you.
I can hear you. I can hear you. I can't hear me. I can hear Ross, but you guys can't hear
I'm
me.
going to try rejoining.
Okay. No, I don't know what's wrong, guys. I don't know what happened. Okay, because my microphone is on. Can you guys hear me? You guys should be able to hear me, right? You hear me now. Cool. Awesome sauce. That was weird. I'm so sorry. That was nice. Anyway, sorry about that. Let me get out of here. Spin out. All right, let me get out of here. Chat. Close the chat. And show on screen. There we go. Ha ha. Ha. Figured it out.
Hello.
Sorry, that was weird. Halfway through the video, it just cut, and I was like, "Why have I lost the ability to do my show?" So,
oh no,
I know. Sorry. Anyway, we're professionals over here at Freethinkers Fireside, which is just me. So, anyway, hi Ross. Welcome back to the show. For people that were not here last time, who are you?
Yeah, so my name is Ross Blocher. I am a animation professional by day, but on the side, I investigate claims of the paranormal, both with the Independent Investigations Group, the Center for Inquiry Investigations Group, I should say. We offer a $500,000 prize for evidence of claims of the paranormal. Also, a longtime podcaster. My previous show was Oh No, Ross and Carrie, for which I joined various fringe religious groups, tried alternative medical treatments, and investigated generally the supernatural. And I have a large invested interest in the Bible specifically, because I was raised very Christian, very much, learning the Bible inside and out, except once I left the faith back in 2004, I started to realize I was missing a lot of really important context. And so I've just kind of kept reading about the Bible ever since. I think even more than I did as a believer. So there you go. That's a bit of me.
No, it's funny. Like I talked to a lot of former religious people. Like when I did work for RFR, and even now, just being in these spaces, and so many of them know more about their religious texts since leaving their faith than unless they were suddenly be a pastor, or they were like really, really into like their Bible studies, and it reaffirmed. But most of them, they're like, half the shit I didn't even know, or they started getting like scholarship. Till they went to college, or they just started really studying it, and then they just kind of fell in love with religion the more that they actually learned the facts about it. So I always find that really cool.
And there's kind of multiple pathways there. You can either take the path where you say, whoa, this is way different than it was taught to me, and sort of exit as a result, or you can kind of go down that scholarly track as a believer, and then just have to play sort of a different game about what you communicate to others, and what you personally believe, and how you balance some of that knowledge with everyday lived experience. So in college, I was president of the Bible study group, and I was still leading it as I was coming out of the faith. So I had a lot of very awkward, Bible studies where it was like, okay, let's look at these weird passages and what do we do with this? This doesn't make any sense. But I recently had an old high school buddy reach out to me with an evangelical resource he wanted me to look at, and I kind of gave my honest feedback about it. And he said, yeah, I kind of wonder, like, why are you still so interested in the Bible if you don't believe it anymore? And I thought, I mean, people ask me that, but what? I mean, are you kidding me? It's so much more interesting now. Because now I have this vantage point of sort of like how I looked at it incorrectly before, how my community had presented it to me, and now there's all these fun facts on top of what I understood before. Now that I have kind of a dose of critical scholarship, which is not critical necessarily in the sense of finding fault, or looking for something wrong, but just critical in terms of using the methods of scholarship to try to determine who wrote this, what were their motives, how can we date this, all of those kind of scientific questions you ask when looking at a text.
Because like I've even heard people that know, like, that the Bible, even believers, the Bible is not, it shouldn't be viewed out as like absolute fact,
Mhm.
because they've done enough historical research to be like, the things that are in here were rooted by the people at the time, and they like find out like, the four authors of the Gospels were probably not named these names, and
Yeah.
they're wrote like century, decades apart, and all this different stuff, and they
Yeah.
know that, but they still choose to believe the stories, which is fine,
Yeah.
at least like you're being like somewhat realistic, like okay, like everything is contextual, and then the spiritual kind of, you can like, even as an atheist, I find them way more respectful. Like I would rather you be a believer with your thinking cap on. you
Yeah.
know
It's funny. I agree with that. On the other hand, the fundamentalists who insist that it must be true, I can kind of
Yeah.
associate with their mindset as well because they want everything to be consistent. And I feel like that drive for consistency is sort of what led me away. And then I feel like the ones with their thinking caps on, they're playing some weird dual game where
Yeah, the
they're letting.
mental gymnastics is kind of amazing. Like
Yeah.
like my
So
like my brother wanted to be a monk at some point.
oh,
So he got like really into biblical scholarship and things like that, and he is still a believer, but he's also an engineer and loves science and like Star Trek is his favorite TV show.
yeah. Yep.
It's like, okay, I'm like, really, the most atheistic show? Like, were you paying attention?
I mean, yeah, everybody's
But
different.
because he's
So
the one that got me into the show. So,
that's amazing.
yeah. It's a very interesting sort of dichotomy. But people are fascinating. We are fascinating apes. So,
Yes. Yes,
we are
absolutely.
irrational, emotional creatures that meat bags that occasionally will use our logic.
Exactly. Yep. We're all selective about it in some ways. So
Oh,
um,
definitely,
good
for
to be
sure.
humble about that.
Definitely, because I'm always like, oh my god, I have so many biases. As soon as I realize I have one, I'm like, fuck. like,
Yeah.
like, there's another
Or
one.
yeah, or you find like some piece of information you've been repeating and telling people, you're like, oh, that was wrong. Shoot. I wish I had a
Oh
list
yeah,
of everyone I told that to. Like I need to untell it.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, I'm so sorry, I was wrong about that. Like,
Right. Right.
I am so sorry. That is not factual.
It's
Anywho,
inevitable.
so
Yeah.
last time you were here, we talked about the biblical God. So, and then you pitched talking about the biblical devil, which is definitely more as a goth member of the Satanic Temple,
I
former
brought my
cool people.
satanic temple
Yay! Yes,
mug.
I don't have I have my card, but my card's in my other room. So I have my card. I have my, and I also have a sticker on my water bottle that I carry everywhere at work. On the other side, it says "Queers for Abortion Rights."
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm that person.
Nice.
Any,
Yeah, well, yeah, this is a fun topic, and I feel like it's one of these major ones where Christianity and what we kind of gain by osmosis from everything based on that society, television, they all give us these pictures of Satan, Lucifer, the devil, and it's all kind of presented as this package that's been sort of nicely negotiated over centuries of debate. And that's what we learn in the church, as certainly I did. And the Bible is not that at all. It's really skeletal what you get about Satan and who he is. I'll use Satan just as shorthand, but just be aware that Satan is this agglomerated character from many other sources and mentions. And just to kind of like give a broad view of it, we have Satan kind of in the New Testament, the Gospels and beyond, as the single character, capital S Satan. And he is the opposite, the counterpart to God and works against him. But that took a lot of development to get to, and it doesn't exist in the Hebrew Bible, or as Christians would call it, the Old Testament. There was no one character like that. So that's what I hope to kind of unpack today.
I'm excited. I'm so
Okay,
excited.
cool.
This is my jammy jam. So,
Okay.
so where should we start?
Okay. Well, let's start at the beginning. Where in your mind would you say is like the first time traditionally you think of Satan, the devil, showing up in the Bible?
The first the first one that comes to mind is when he makes a bet with Jesus about like that's
Okay.
the first one I know.
Okay.
That was one of the first story. That's always the one that I think of when someone asks me
Okay.
because it's my favorite story because it's so ludicrous. But anyway,
Well, you're thinking the right way, and I would say more accurately about Satan's representation in the Bible. But I'll take us back even earlier, at least in like the ordering of the Bible. You know how we have it in the story of Genesis. Most people think of the serpent in the garden as being Satan. You know that Eve was tricked by Satan into eating the apple. You know, of course, it's never actually an apple. Um, and the idea is that Satan is the one who tempted her to eat that fruit of the tree
obviously.
of knowledge of good and evil, right? And then of course she tricked Adam, I guess. And then there's all kinds of sexuality or sexism built into that, whole
And
idea that
sexuality.
what's that?
And sexuality, because
And
they that's when
sexuality.
they both become self-aware.
That's when they're right. They're aware that they're naked all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And oh my god, yeah, there's a lot to unpack in that whole passage.
There's
But
there like between the theology and the social aspect of it and everything. I think the reason why I don't associate the biblical story, like the creation story, with Satan, because I have a very different view of the serpent than
yes,
Satan. So my relation,
okay,
I have a different relationship to that story. So,
yes.
um,
Well, I'm already sensing yours is more accurate. Did you want to unpack that a little bit?
So, so the serpent, and it depends on which theology you're coming from. If you're looking at it from a very matriarchal sort of takeover of matriarchal religions, the snake is the representation of wisdom, and the metaphorical. Like they become self-aware, they recognize they're naked. That is an awareness of of knowledge, like you suddenly know what shame is, that that's a social knowledge, right? And then that's when when God like punishes them, they
Mhm.
they start to question. They're like, okay, like what, why? And that is the development of like the psychological concept of the self, and then to start to question the outside word which comes from these old more philosophical ideas about, like, especially in animism and symbolism, the snakes were seen as the wise. That's why you have them. They're also the symbols of the healer.
Yeah.
That's why there's a bunch of
Rod of
snakes around your
Asclepius.
shit.
Yeah.
So your Ouroboros. Now your Ouroboros. It's the other one. Fuck, with the twine snakes. It's a
Um,
different word.
yeah. Yeah, well, I think of the Rod of Asclepius, and yeah,
Yeah,
I know exactly what the caduceus.
caduceus. Yes.
Yeah, well, and you're right. There's so much perverse symbolism in that story of the fall in Eden, because yeah, the punishment is for asking questions, for seeking knowledge, for disobeying. That those are the main
Mhm.
things. You just do what you're told, even though there's no, the rules given are arbitrary. And it turns out the serpent is right. The serpent says, "Yeah, surely you won't die today." They don't die that day. I
No.
mean, turns out he was right. So, okay, I'm going to do a lot of screen sharing here. Let me try this real quick. And let's see here. You should see the
Okay.
Genesis 1. Okay. So I'm going to keep pulling up Bible Gateway here because nice online Bible.
I love Bible Gateway.
Great resource. I tend
It's
to
such a good resource.
I recommend the New Revised Standard Version, updated edition from 2021. That's a very good scholarly interpretation of the Bible. So that'll be my default, unless we're making a point about how people are changing things in other translations of the Bible. But yeah, when you start at the beginning, and already here's a very important phrasing: when God began to create the heavens and the earth, is a more accurate translation than
Mhm.
in the beginning. a very different temporal thing, but we'll stick to the devil here. So you have this whole first creation account in Genesis 1, no mention of the serpent whatsoever. Genesis 2, you awkwardly have this little a bit of added account from the first creation narrative. The chapters weren't added until the 13th century, so sometimes they just seem very arbitrary. But then you get a second account of creation, and this is the one where instead of being created man and woman, they're created first man. There's a whole time period. Adam is like trying to find a suitable helper amongst all the animals, and then God puts him to sleep and pulls out the rib or his side and creates the woman. So that kind of sets up all of this story that's going to lead into the serpent, but there's still no mention of the serpent. There is a mention of this tree of the knowledge of good and evil that you should not eat.
Right.
So that's set up there in the second chapter, but it's not until chapter 3 that starts with the serpent, and his whole story is contained in this one chapter. That's all of the serpent in the Hebrew Bible, aka the Old Testament. And he only gets one other mention. We'll talk about that in just a bit in the entire Bible. But yeah, it talks about the serpent. And like you said, he's smart. He's more crafty than any other wild animal. But what's very clear here is as you read the story, the serpent talking to the woman, he is just a talking serpent. Never once is he identified with Satan. That character doesn't exist. There is no, figure who is the opposite of God or anything. That doesn't exist at this time. And trying to impose it on this text is an anachronism. And we get to this whole, I think everybody knows the story. Eve takes the fruit, Adam takes the fruit. They are cursed, but so is the serpent. So the serpent gets cursed. And it's this etiological story. So etiology is where you have a mythical story that gives us an explanation for why things are the way they are in today's world. Just like the story of, God giving us the rainbow as a covenant after the flood is an etiology for where do rainbows come from? In this case, this answers the question, why do snakes slither on the ground and not have legs like the other animals? And they didn't know about evolutionary theory. They didn't know about the vestigial tiny legs inside the snake.
Right.
So they made the story about God cursing the snake, and that's why he slithers around. Okay.
And they probably saw somebody in their tribe get killed by a snake and then associated it with it being bad.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so the only other mention in the Bible of the snake is from 2 Corinthians. So let's go there. But yeah, seriously, after that, starting Genesis chapter 4, no more mention of, let me say it like Trump here, 2 Corinthians.
2 Corinthians. This is my favorite verse. It's the best verse.
The only other mention. Say that again.
Love the whole thing. It was great.
Yeah, right. Yeah, when they asked Trump to pick like his favorite verse, he's like, "Oh, that's very personal. Yeah, I don't like to talk about that."
It's very personal.
I think if I had one question to ask Trump, I might ask him to name the Gospels. I don't think he could. I don't think he could even say Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
That is a better question.
Yeah, it'd be fun to put him on the spot like
that. Or even ask him, how many Gospels are there, Trump?
Right. Yeah, seriously. Oh, I love all of them. They're all great. Anyways, let's forget about that guy for a moment.
I know. Yeah, let's not talk. We're going to talk. We're not going to talk about real Satan. We're going to talk about biblical Satan.
So. Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about fake Satan.
Exactly.
So in 2 Corinthians, and that is one of the real letters written by Paul out of the 13 traditionally, ascribed to Paul. Only 6 or 7 are actually written by him. And so this is one of the real ones, but this is the only other mention in the Bible of that serpent. In the New Testament, it says, "But I am afraid that as the serpent deceived Eve by its cunning, your thoughts will be led astray from a sincere and pure devotion to Christ." Okay. The only other mention of that serpent. Now, I know what a lot of people are thinking. They're thinking, but wait a second, isn't the serpent mentioned in Revelation in all of these end time prophecies? For example, And war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. The dragon and his angels fought back, but they were defeated. The great dragon was thrown down, the ancient serpent, who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. So people traditionally think, that ancient serpent, they're talking about
But
that serpent from the Garden of Eden. Similarly, in Revelation 20, we get another mention of that ancient serpent. He sees the dragon, that ancient serpent, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years and threw him into the pit and locked and sealed it over him so that he would deceive the nations no more until the 1,000 years were ended. And I love this. So he's sitting in jail doing whatever. I don't know what he's eating. But then after that, he must be let out for a little while. Okay.
Just a little bit.
Why? So
why would you have your antagonist that you defeated like come back like just for a bit though, like
yes.
but this is what inspired me to write a D&D campaign based on Revelations, because it reads like a D&D campaign. Yes. Yeah. I found 4 gods in D&D that are like the 4 archangels, and then I picked 4 devils from D&D.
Amazing.
So it worked. And they have to break all, and like the campaigns, they have to break all 7 seals, but the thing is, the plot twist is that they don't know if they're going to bring forth the apocalypse or they're supposed to prevent it, because prophecy is weird. And it's just based on their choices.
that sounds like my kind of campaign. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's been fun.
And it's funny, we just read about Michael. There's only, in the canonical like standard books of the Bible, there's only two named angels ever. Like we have Michael and Gabriel, and that's it. For other angels like Uriel and Metatron, like Metatron, those are all from
Alan Rickman.
Other texts. So very few named angels in the Bible. Anyways, so most people hear those passages, they hear about the ancient serpent, and it wouldn't have been too outlandish to suggest that maybe that was a tradition at that point, and that John of Patmos, who was writing Revelation.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Oh, I love that we have a comment about listening to a talking serpent. That talking donkey is coming up in the storytelling. This is irrelevant.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, Infidel, you're psychic.
Yeah. Well done. Yeah. Well anticipated.
Okay.
The best prophecy we'll encounter tonight. Anyway, so you might say that maybe John of Patmos was aware of this or had made that connection, because hundreds of years had gone by from the actual authorship of Genesis, and yet I think it's very fair to say, I think most scholars would agree with this, that dragon that's being mentioned in Revelation, John of Patmos was thinking of Leviathan. That was actually a bigger character. And I don't know, is that a familiar term? Like, do you remember Leviathan?
I know that they're okay in gigantism, because in Supernatural they're actual demons that are trying to control the world. So that's them. They're like the uber munch of demons.
Okay.
And then in when if you've ever played an underwater video game where you get these huge monsters, they have to fight leviathans.
Yes. So okay. Well, and this is an ancient creature that was kind of believed generally in Canaanite mythology as this massive undersea creature. It was like sort of the king of the water, if you will, this like mythical, gigantic, multi-headed beast. And I'll go on a little bit of a Leviathan.
Say that again? Underwater, like an underwater hydra?
Yeah. Out, like literally in multiple heads. And in the Bible, Leviathan is said to have multiple heads. I'll go on a little Leviathan bender later, but let me just say for now that Leviathan is named in the Bible, as is Behemoth. That's considered to be the massive land creature, like that representative of all land beasts. It's supposed to be so tall that like its head is like disappears in the clouds. It's this massive thing. And this is fun. There's a third giant creature of the air called Ziz, who is not named in modern translations in the Bible, but is kind of included poetically in two passages in Psalms that are just like translated as like wild beasts or birds of the air or something. So you had these mythological creatures, this multi-headed sea creature, Leviathan, behemoth for the land, Ziz for the sky. And so that's the ancient serpent that John the Revelator is talking about. So yeah, we'll show a little bit more of the Leviathan stuff because this ties into sort of our understanding of God. Yeah, and Satan. Okay, so there we go. That's this serpent. He's only a serpent, and it's not until apocalyptic literature. Very good. Nice work, Dale.
I love you, man. Anyway, go ahead.
It's not until Jewish apocalyptic literature, which sort of emerges in what we would call that intertestamental period, where we have this big gap in the canonical Bible. It's usually considered 400 years. It's a little, it's actually smaller than that. But this period between the composition of the Jewish Bible and the New Testament, there were these developing ideas, largely because of the diaspora, that you had the Israelites no longer in their homeland. They'd been kicked out essentially. And so they'd spent time in Assyria. They'd spent time in Babylon. They were exposed to Zoroastrianism and this whole idea of these opposing gods, the good God and then the evil God. And so that's where Satan and this idea of him as a singular character emerged in that intertestamental period. By the time then that you get to the Gospels, he really is one character. Anyways, those are all themes we'll kind of come back to. Let me see if I missed anything important there in my notes. But let's get back to where Satan actually does show up in the Bible, or where that term shows up in the Bible. So let me introduce kind of a contradiction that's difficult for Christians, because we often talk about things in the Bible that appear to be at odds, and usually the apologetic response is to find some way to smooth over those contradictions. So I'll share our handy dandy Bible Gateway again, and let's go to 2 Samuel 24:1. So
we'll read. Hold that up.
All right. So I don't know if you've seen this before, but here's one of these kind of major conflicting passages that comes up in the Bible. So in chapter 24, it starts with verse 1. Again, the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel, and he incited David against them, saying, "Go, count the people of Israel and Judah." So the Lord is mad, and he tells David, "Go conduct a census of the people." Okay, fine. Okay. Kind of a weird thing to get mad about and insist on. But then you have a problem, because the later writers in Chronicles repeated a lot of material from earlier. They were kind of writing this history. And when they told the exact same story, here's how they told it. Satan stood up against Israel and incited David to count the people of Israel. And the rest of the chapters are almost like word for word copies. It's the exact same story. It's the exact same time. But one says that the Lord tells David to count the people. And here it says Satan told David to count the people. What the heck? Yeah, that's a problem, right?
I'm like, what?
Right. Yeah. Which one was it? Those seem pretty opposite to me, right? So if we take this passage, let's say, 1 Chronicles 21, one of my, recommended tools is to look up a passage and say interlinear. So if you want to look at the original Hebrew next to the English, you can pull it up on Bible Hub and look at it side by side.
See, there you go. See, check your sources, guys.
Well, this is where we find. Oh, come on. Why is it taking its time?
because God doesn't want you to compare.
Satan is getting in the way.
Satan, could it be
I-
Satan? No,
Yeah.
no, Satan would want you to. God doesn't want you to, because he's infallible. something.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Did Satan take down Bible Hub? He didn't want us to know about
He
him.
didn't want you to know.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy. That's funny. We joke,
Or the
but
internet's having a glitch.
my mom regularly would blame Satan for things like the car not starting. So hey, okay, well,
listen, every time I get a parking spot, I always say I have good parking karma, because I keep want to bring that into my life. So every time you get a good parking spot, psychologically trick yourself and say, I have good parking karma.
I might ironically thank God, the creator of the universe, for giving me the good parking spot, and too bad he's ignoring the suffering of many. But
right, exactly. Thank you for listen, karma. Thank you for giving me a good parking spot, but also childhood bone cancer exists. So
right.
priorities.
All right. So all right, you're just gonna have to take my word for it at this point. But when it refers to Satan, instead it's talking about Satan, and there's a definite article there, like Hasatan means like the alternately it's kind of transcribed as the accuser or the adversary. So that's where we see that term Satan come from. It's a Hebrew word that means accuser or adversary. And so it is this character who is standing up against Israel and inciting David to count the people of Israel. And that makes sense if you understand that the adversary is someone who acts on behalf of God. He's sort of this emissary, or he's like an angel of the Lord. He's part of this divine council of multiple divine beings, and he's on God's side, but he performs a role of being an accuser or being an adversary to the humans.
Sorry. I had my knee, so I was trying not to scream. So give me a second to.
Oh no!
I turned in my chair and my knee went right into the side of my desk, and I was like, "Oh, I'm distracted by pain." Ow! So
I'm so sorry.
Okay, please. Okay, go back. Go back.
That's
2 sentences.
Yeah. Okay. So essentially, but biblical contradiction. You're welcome, Christians. I can make it go away, because in the first passage you have the anger of the Lord causing David to have the census. And in the other passage told later, you have the adversary, which is someone acting on behalf of the Lord, inciting David to count the people. And it's then not really a contradiction. It's not like this polar opposite evil entity. It's someone who's working on God's behalf. Okay, so now that we kind of understand that framing, that it's not an individual person, it's someone who's performing a role. Let's look at Job. So you were talking about Job as being like kind of the first place that you think of Satan. So when we get to this passage, and by the way, before I share that, let me share another resource from, let's see, from Useful Charts. I don't know if anybody here has followed Matt Baker. He has a really awesome YouTube series, and he'll produce these amazing explanation charts and do a really good job of representing history on the Bible, but also a lot of other topics. And so this is just a screenshot from him showing the rough composition dates of the books of the Old Testament as best as we understand them. So when we're talking about, for example, we just showed this difference between the account in Samuel that was written with the Lord, and then Chronicles, we're looking at something written where the northern kingdom had been overthrown. So all of this is like Jewish history. I don't know if everybody is too aware of that. Something I learned a lot more about after I left the faith. But you had kind of the northern and southern kingdoms, and then you had one of them overthrown in 722 BCE. You had a lot of these books kind of written in that period where you only had the southern kingdom, Judah, where Jerusalem is. And then you had the destruction of the first temple in 586 BC, and you had these, the the remaining kingdom overthrown by Babylon. And then you had this time of the Persian rule. So that's when Chronicles was written. Anyways, often in the church, I was told that Job was like one of the oldest pieces of the Bible, one of the oldest stories. Turns out not so much. It was written a lot later than other things. So there's nothing particularly ancient about Job. But just to introduce a bit of that context of when and where it was written. Okay, so I'll stop that share and I'll start another one as we go back to the Bible. Sorry, I'm making you work here.
I have to click on a button.
Sorry about that.
Too much. God, you're so fucking demanding, Ross. God damn it.
So as we get to the story of Job, I think most of you are familiar with this. I think it's like one of the worst understood books in the Bible. Like what the whole point of Job is, but it introduces this man. He lived in the land of Uz, a place completely outside of the biblical region. So he's not, living in Israel or in the kingdom at all. It's just this
Where is Uz?
Yeah, you know what? I'm not 100% sure. I think there's speculation about where it is. I think it's somewhere in Mesopotamia, but just outside of, it's not in Israel, that's for sure.
Okay.
So he was blameless and upright, and he's great. He loved God. Everything's going great in his life. What's that?
He's so great. He's just like
yeah, cream of the crop. He's stellar amongst humans.
Yes.
And okay, here's where we get to the really important part. One day the heavenly beings came to present themselves before the Lord, and the accuser also came among them. All right. So when I used to read this as a Christian, this was always so weird. Like, wait a second, Satan. And if you read some translations of the Bible, in fact, let's quickly switch over to the one I was raised with, the NIV, the New International Version. If you look at the translation,
I was raised with the King James Version.
Oh, okay. Well, let's look at that one too. So in the NIV, it says, one day the angels. Now notice, now it's not sons of God. That's a little awkward for the NIV folks.
Right?
So they
because Satan's kind of included in that.
Yes. So the original text, again, if we went to the Hebrew, if the internet would let us go to the interlineal, it would say like they were the B'nai Elohim, the sons of God. But that's an awkward translation for contemporary evangelical Christians. When the NIV was written in the 70s, they called that, angels. We're just going to say that that's what sons of God means. They were making a big editorial leap there. Okay, when they came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them, the Lord said to Satan,
I can get to the no, I can't. I can get to the index. I can't get to the main site for the interlineal.
That's so weird. Okay.
Yeah. Because I was like, let me see if I can do it. I'm getting on Bible Hub the I'm getting the.
I was looking at it half an hour before we started talking. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting the index. I can get the index. So maybe it's on its way back up. That's what's happening. They have to they're beta maxing it.
Yeah, very good. We'll come back to it. So I remember, we would always look at this and be like, wow, what a weird head scratch. The one time in all of history that we know that Satan somehow snuck into heaven in front of the throne of God and gets to have like a little wager with him. What the heck? Another just kind of strange, puzzle for Christians to work out. Why did that happen? And then you said King James Version. Let's take a look at that real quick. Let's see. There's the New King James Version. The sons of God, so it gets that right, came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. So there you go. And the Lord said unto Satan, whence comest thou? So here we have Satan show up.
That's very fancy. Satan's very posh.
Yeah, totally. We got to speak to him in Elizabethan English.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's how it's traditionally painted. But here in the New Revised Standard Version, updated edition, it's referring to him as the accuser, because that is what, if you look at the original Hebrew, it says Ha-Satan. It's Satan, the Satan, not Satan, but the Satan, the adversary, the accuser, comes before God. And then they have this whole conversation about like, well, have you considered my servant Job? There's no one like him. He's blameless and upright. And the accuser
Okay.
Says, hey, he wouldn't be so on your side if you took away all of the, his loving wife and his family. And so God allows the accuser to destroy, kill his family, destroy everything he owns, and leave him destitute to see if he'll curse God's name. Wild. So this is another problem that gets resolved when you realize this is just an emissary working on God's behalf. Interesting. Okay. Let's see. Is there anything else I wanted to say about Job here? Yeah, and the whole message of Job is that God is actually wrong in all of this. It turns out that, Job doesn't curse him, but he was also wrong to kill off all of Job's people. He did that for no good reason. And when Job questions this divine mandate to kill his family,
to ask, man.
Yeah. He gets the response from God, which isn't, oh, hey, actually, I had this bet. Sorry, I shouldn't have done that. Instead, the response from the whirlwind is, who are you, you puny human, to question me? I'm God. I laid the foundations of the earth. And then
have you watched season 2 of Good Omens?
I haven't. No.
They do the story of Job.
Oh, really?
Through Aziraphale's and Crowley's perspective.
Oh, I need to watch that whole thing.
It's so good. Like, that was my favorite thing about season 2. I was like, this is amazing. Like it is.
Oh, I love that. Okay. I totally have to watch it.
Just saying, just like, if you're not gonna just watch it for that. It's so good.
But like, the resolution of the story in the end is that God gives him a new wife and new children and new flocks. It's like, what about these pawns?
So
his family?
Your wife is irreplaceable, right?
Yeah, exactly.
She's like,
yeah, one wife is as good as another. All your kids, the innocent kids, they died. Here's some new kids. All's good.
Okay. So here's an interesting sort of cultural social psychology quibble with this. Just put aside. So the average age is pretty young at this point, and there's probably a lot of death. And your kids aren't getting very old. There's some traditions that would not name your child until they turn 4.
Oh, right. Yeah, because
it was mortality. Don't get it. If you name it, get attached.
Exactly.
So that's the thing. And then, so maybe that is just like the interchange of people. Isn't
right.
It doesn't that's from, but I'm using the psychology of people living at that time, and the circumstances around them. Biblically doesn't make a lot of sense, because it's like God's just like, you can do anything, but you want the replacement wife and children.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's exactly what it is. It's just the decreased valuing of human life. And there it is.
Because we are lesser, because you have a penis, Ross, better than me. It's women and then children.
Oh, yeah.
For God. See, umbrella protection.
What happened to women and children first?
No, sorry. No, it was really nice today. Somebody held the door open for me. He was being really sweet. And he goes, I still believe in doing this for ladies. And I'm like, I love chivalry. I'm not going to say no.
Anyway, yeah. To each their own. And if somebody doesn't
I'm like, I've bared human beings. You can at least hold the door open for me. Thank you.
Well, and it's funny. It's not funny. I'll hold open the door for a man as well. It's about proximity. Right. And sometimes you have that awkward, wait, they're coming, but now it's it's right on the threshold where if I hold the door, it's awkward.
And then you find yourself standing there longer also than you anticipated.
And then they're like, oh no, now I need to run because this guy is holding the door for me.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Social interactions, they're so tough.
Yes, I love it like that. Okay, so let's get back to Job.
Yeah. Okay, so let's share the Bible cam again. So let's do it. Let's walk through all the.
Oh, that is not.
We're going to walk through all the biblical mentions of the Satan. So here's another smaller one. And it says, this is in Zechariah. And it says, then he showed me Joshua, the high priest, standing before the angel of the Lord, and Satan standing at his right side to accuse him. Let's see, the Lord, too much effort with the linguistics. Oh, Dennis Miller equals the, oh, is that in the Good Omen series?
No, Dennis Miller, the comedian. He was on SNL.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Or am I getting him confused with somebody else? Am I getting Infidel? Am I getting him confused with somebody else?
Isn't he like kind of a right-wing comedian? Oh, anyways.
I don't think. Okay, sorry. Infidel's gonna do a thing for me and give me context because I think I know who I'm thinking of, but I'm getting it crossed in my brain probably.
Okay.
Anyway, go ahead.
I got the reference mixed up. Okay. So here we have. Oh, and we've gone back to the New International Version. Whatever. So you have the high priest standing before the angel of the Lord, and Satan standing at his right side to accuse him. Again, it's Hasatan, the accuser, or the adversary. The Lord said to Satan, "The Lord rebuke you, Satan. The Lord, who has chosen Jerusalem, rebuke you. Is not this man a burning stick snatched from the fire?" And Joshua was dressed in filthy. What's that?
I said, obviously.
Yes. So anyways, essentially you have, oh yeah, you got it just right. He was SNL back in the day. Okay. He was horrible. Okay. Very good.
Yeah, he was. He turned, yes, you are correct. He became like a right-wing kind of comedian. Like,
got it.
Like center right, which we would just call right now. So
all right. We both remember different pieces of him.
Yep.
So anyways, they're having this debate over whether Joshua is holy or not, and the accuser is taking one side and the angel of the Lord is taking the other side. Okay, so here's another mention of the Satan, but again, it's still the Satan. It's not Satan, exclusively. But
is it the Satan or is it Satan? Is it the alliterated Satan?
Right. Yeah, in fact, the only time that it's used without the definite article there saying the is that mention in Chronicles where Satan is inciting that census among the people, and there it's not sure. It could be an indefinite article, it could be a Satan. Got it. Thanks, Dale.
Thanks.
There it could be referring to a character named Satan, or it could be saying a Satan. There's no indefinite article in Hebrew. So anyways, that might have been the first mention of Satan if that's the case. Otherwise, it's always the Satan in the Bible. So let's get to another one because this is fascinating. And we mentioned the talking donkey. Let's go to Numbers 22. And I'm gonna bring back
I totally did not remember the story until like years later. I think I was listening to a podcast and somebody brought up a talking donkey. I was like, where was this story when I was growing up? Like, I do not remember the talking donkey.
Okay. Yeah, you've got multiple talking animals in the Bible.
I mean, I know Satan talk. Like, I know the snake talked like that. I don't know how. I always thought, like, when I was a kid, like, since I knew snakes couldn't like, I thought it was like psychically, like it was telepathic, because that made more sense to me. Because like, okay, it's still bullshit, but at least like I'm like, well, it's all magic anyway. So like
it's a little more palatable if I think of it as mental telepathy.
Because other than that, it's like, well, no, because I know snakes can't talk.
Yeah, and that is the apologist reflex that I think we're all kind of raised with, which is, make it all make sense. So if something
the thing is, though, I didn't even it wasn't even apologetic, like, to my young, like, 9-year-old brain that was reading the Encyclopedia Britannica at home.
Yeah.
But then going to church on Sunday. And I'm like, oh, it must be like it must be in their brains that because I hear my thoughts. So maybe like they're communicating. Like I had some, because I had watched a lot of She-Ra at this time and I knew what telepathy was. So.
Well, and that's relevant too. Like what you're seeing in media informs what seems credible or logical to you. But yeah, either way, you were kind of helping it out. You're like, well, that's silly. Let's turn it into something that makes a little more sense.
Right.
So in this story, and in fact, maybe I was right to start with the NIV because it says, you've got Balaam going out on kind of a mission from God. God gets angry at him, and the angel of the Lord stood in the road to oppose him. Balaam was riding on his donkey, and his 2 servants were with him. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with a drawn sword in his hand, it turned off the road into a field. Balaam beat it to get back on the road. So like the donkey is seeing this creature with a sword and like, hell no, I'm not walking towards this angry guy with a sword. I'm going to walk off in the field.
That's a smart donkey. Smart.
Yeah. Talking donkey, pretty smart. Then the angel of the Lord stood in a narrow path through the vineyards with walls on both sides. Like, we're going to have a confrontation. You got to walk towards me now. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, it pressed close to the wall, crushing Balaam's foot against it. So he beat the donkey again. Balaam's this real jerk. He keeps
Balaam's
beating
an asshole. I don't like Balaam. He's an asshole.
Yes, agreed. Then the angel of the Lord moved on ahead and stood in a narrow place where there was no room to turn, either to the right or the left. He's like, we're going to confront each other now. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, it lay down under Balaam, and he was angry and beat it with his staff. Then the Lord opened the donkey's mouth, and it said to Balaam, "What have I done to you to make you beat me these 3 times?" Balaam answered the donkey, "You have made a fool of me. If only I had a sword in my hand, I would kill you right now."
You're going to be stuck in the middle of the road, man. Like, not a good plan.
Yeah, and often in depictions of the story, people will show like the angel being invisible to Balaam because he doesn't seem to be reacting to this angel of the Lord at all. And then the donkey said to Balaam, am I not your own donkey, which you have always ridden to this day? Have I been in the habit of doing this to you? No, he said. So I've ended the passage here. There's more. But the important thing is, growing up, this was never a passage about Satan. It was about the angel of the Lord. And it wasn't like this wasn't an evil thing that was happening. It was always just the angel of the Lord, as you see here in the NIV. Now, if we look at the better translation in the New Revised Standard Version, it's saying that the angel of the Lord took his stand in the adversary. Oh yeah, as his adversary, and that's where we get this word Satan. So let's see if we luck out this time with the interlinear Bible. It's back! Yay! Thank you, Jesus. All right, so if we go to Numbers 22.
Okay.
And let's see. Pardon
me. Now it likes you.
What's that?
You circumvented the devil. Now it likes you now.
Yes.
Or God.
Good. Good. Here we go. So this is one, when I show it to Christians, they all go, wait, what? That's Satan? Because it says, and was aroused, we're reading right to left, anger of God, because went he and took his stand, the angel of Yahweh. Malak is just a word that means messenger, and it gets translated as angel. In the way as an adversary, then there it is. There's our Satan. So there he is, acting as an adversary. So it should translate it as Satan, but it never does in any of these translations. There, it's just the angel of the Lord as an adversary. That kind of blew my mind when I realized this was yet another Satan story in the Hebrew Bible. One that would be inconvenient to interpret as Satan, and so modern translations tend to gloss over that. Crazy. And with that, we have covered every actual mention of Satan, the adversary, the accuser, in the Old Testament. So, as I mentioned, that's it. Okay,
what that was like 5.
Yeah, very little. And there's
okay, it was.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Okay, so creation story, Job, donkey. What am I missing?
The census, Zechariah. Yeah.
Yes.
Job, the talking donkey, and not even the creation story, because there is no mention of Satan there. It's just a serpent. Really just 4 mentions of that term, the Satan, which is wild. But
That's so
let,
interesting.
let's talk about some passages that often get confused as being about Satan. So one of the popular ones is, let's start with Isaiah. That's a good one.
I do. Yes, he is the scariest monster. I agree.
Yeah.
He's kind of a dick. like I always feel like for all the power God has, like I feel like he should have done some more smiting.
100%.
I feel like smiting would like be a very cool thing to have, because like there's definitely people I would smite.
Oh, if you appointed me as God and gave me smiting powers, just for half an hour, I would take care.
I would get so much work done.
I would do some very important smiting. Absolutely.
Did you watch Death Note?
No.
It's a very good anime. It is so good. Like I didn't like anime, but like my kids got me into the show. It asks a lot of deep psychological, philosophical questions and ethics. And but the premise is that if this human gets this book that was only made for like the death gods, where you can write somebody's name in a book and how they die.
Oh,
and where they live.
okay.
You have to say who they are and where they live and how did they die.
Oh, gee.
And this megalomaniac of a kid gets, and it's so good. And then it's
Wow.
funny. Do not watch the net. Okay, William Dafoe plays one of the leads in the live action William, but
Oh,
the movie
is
is
this the
shit.
one with that big, tall guy,
Yes,
like black with the
yes,
big wings?
yep,
Okay,
yep.
I know which one you're talking about.
Do not watch the movie. Watch
The
the
freaky
anime.
live action version. Okay.
Yeah, now watch it afterwards. Like I will watch Willem Dafoe like act in like a high school production of Hamlet. Okay, like I will do that. But I'll watch him do that, because he'll bring elevation to whatever he's doing. So great for
Yeah.
him. But the movie's
Yeah.
shit, and it misses the whole point of the anime. The whole point.
Wow.
Because
Okay.
it's a slow burn. It's 3 seasons and it's worth it.
Okay.
Okay.
Fascinating.
Okay,
No,
so
that one has been
Mindhunter and Death Note. Watch.
Yeah. Okay. That common passage that gets pointed to, because once you had Satan emerge in the New Testament as a belief, of course, people went scrambling back to the Old Testament, the Jewish Bible, to say, okay, what evidence of Satan can we find? How can we tell this story? Because there's really no information about, like, okay, all these angels we now believe in, where did they come from? When did God make them? That's not in the creation myth. Satan, when did he come about? What do we know about him? Like all of this lore about Satan has to be sort of read into other passages. So here we have in Isaiah 14 the downfall of the king of Babylon. Keep that in mind, king of Babylon. When the Lord has given you rest from your pain and turmoil, you will take up this taunt against the king of Babylon.
Okay.
How the oppressed has seized, how his insolence has seized. The Lord has broken the staff of the wicked. Let's see, that ruled the nations in anger with unrelenting persecution. The cedars of Lebanon exult over you. You were laid low. No one comes to cut us down. Sheol.
Oh, so this is a diss track.
Yeah, 100%. The Bible is full of diss tracks, and yeah, this is absolutely that. Okay. Sheol rouses the shades to greet you. That was kind of the closest they had to hell, but it was nothing like it. Just sort of this land where you go after you die and are heard from no more.
It's the cornfield.
What's that?
It's the cornfield.
Yes. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. The kings all cry out to you. You've become as weak as we. You have become like us. You've been laid down to Sheol. Maggots are the bed beneath you. Okay. Here's the important part. This may sound familiar. How you are fallen from heaven, O morning star, son of dawn. How you are cut down to the ground, you who laid the nations low. You said to yourself, I will ascend to heaven. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit on the mount of assembly on the heights of Zaphon. I will ascend to the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. You are brought down. This may sound familiar because this is lore that it says specifically it's talking about the king of Babylon, but Christianity has kind of reached this consensus that, okay, sure, it's about the king, this human king of Babylon at the time, but it's also about Satan. It's this backstory. And that's where we get this whole
Morning Star? Did they
Yes.
make a conjecture?
Yes, you, oh,
I
morning
mean,
star.
did they make a causation? Like an inference? Sorry, an inference.
Well, and just as you have, like Christianity will look at prophecies, and when you point out like you think this prophecy is about Jesus in the future, it was fulfilled at its time. Like, there's lots of examples of this, but like, when a young woman will give birth, that gets turned into the virgin birth. But 2 chapters later, it says a virgin gave birth. It's like, okay, that one's already been solved. They'll say, okay, yes, it was an immediate prophecy, but it was also this metaphorical long-term prophecy about Jesus. In the same way, they'll say, okay, sure, it says it names the king of Babylon, but it's also about Satan. So this is where we get a lot of the backstory of.
I can do symbolism too, guys.
Yeah, and anything that you grab from here is to make about Satan is super selective. All this stuff about his earthly reign and all of that, none of that makes sense for Satan, and we just ignore that because it's not convenient. All right, there's one other passage like this in Ezekiel 28. And okay, so again, it says, say to the prince of Tyre. Okay, this is for the prince of Tyre, a physical like land, a real dude, a real human being. Because your heart is proud and you have said, I am a god, I sit in the seat of the gods in the heart of the seas, yet you are but a mortal and no god, though you compare your mind with the mind of a god, you are indeed wiser than Daniel. So it's about how
this guy equates himself to God. Like,
yeah,
he's
exactly.
A narcissist. He's a narcissist.
You're so full of yourself. You think you're like a god, but you're not. You're a human. Let's see. Your heart has become proud in your wealth. Thus says the Lord God, because you compare in your mind with the mind of a god, therefore I will bring strangers against you, the most terrible of the nations. They shall draw their swords against the beauty of your wisdom and defile your splendor. They shall thrust you down to the pit, and you shall die a violent death in the heart of the seas. Will you say, I am a god in the presence of those who kill you, though you are but a mortal and no god? Let's see. And then it gets to, and this is the part that we often associate with Satan. You were the signet of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. So that's a perhaps suggestion that people would take to equate the serpent with Satan, because this became metaphorically about Satan. Every precious stone was your covering. On the day you were created, they were prepared. You were a cherub. I placed you on the holy mountain of God. You walked among the stones of fire. You were blameless in your ways from the day that you were created until iniquity was found in you. So all of this, and I drove you out, O guardian cherub. Your heart was proud because of your beauty. All of this is interpreted to be about Satan, even though we are told the dude, the human, that it's actually about.
This is the Prince of Tyre.
Yeah. So this is where
Tyre.
You get
Tyre.
Yeah, Tyre. So there you go. That's the entire corpus of like things that we associate with Satan, with his backstory. It's just a metaphorical extraction from something that was a diss track against these very real kings of Tyre and Babylon.
Which makes sense, because considering the Bible was written by like ancient Jews living under the last couple hundred years of the Roman Empire. So makes kind of sense.
Yeah. So So there's precious little about Satan. He's not a character. He's not one person. He's not a dead set against God. In fact, he is one of the heavenly assembly. And I guess I'll stop sharing just for a bit here to talk about that. There was this whole pantheon of gods in the Canaanite region, just as we have anywhere else in the world. Like we think of the Greek pantheon or the Norse pantheon, like all of these brother and sister gods, and they have parents and they have family relationships and they have various human attributes. And in the Canaanite region, El was the father god, and he had his consort Asherah, and then they had 70 children gods who were the local gods to each, little nation state. What's that?
It's very pagan.
Yeah, very pagan. Yeah, and it's
all polytheistic.
And there's kind of like a natural progression of how religions form. You start with animism. You start giving human attributes to just the inanimate things around you. The river becomes a god. The sun is a god. All of these things that you kind of count on to water your crops and feed your children all get.
You lived and died by the sun and the land. So
right. I mean,
so
yeah,
it becomes a god. This is the thing that's giving me life, because I am conscious that I am mortal.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, like, if anything makes sense to worship, sure, the sun, like, we need that. That's important. And so then they get names, and then they get personified. That's what we do. We anthropomorphize. And so we give them attributes.
We do. Even those are atheists. Listen, I have a stuffed Appa, next to my TV that I need to hang up, because I said Appa's not happy. It's like sitting next to the remotes, baby. Like, we gotta hang up Appa, and I pat him every day. I'm like, I love you, Appa. Like, it's not.
When the digital
anthropomorphizing us like some felt and some stuffing, and I'm like, I love you, Appa.
I mean, when the digital assistant on my phone, I won't say its name just so it doesn't like come alive and try to, answer what I'm saying. But like when it gives me the weather for the day, I'll thank it, like right. That's what you would do with a person, right? So that's what we do.
Hi, Miss Maya. I love Miss Maya. Miss Maya does an awesome show on Sundays called Bad Science Sundays. And she does some like debunking of like terrible ideas and like current science, like past and current science. It's really great.
Oh, nice work, Miss Maya. That's important.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a really good show. Yeah.
You're doing the Lord's work. I like it.
Yes. Yes.
So
and Maya's also a believer, so like it is great, because then we were talking about like everybody's got like multiple hats, and Maya has multiple hats, like, and that's why I love her, because she's an amazing person. So I love people that I can connect with on like on so many different levels. So it's great. Okay. Anyway, go ahead. Let's keep going about.
Yeah. So, I mean, it seems like there's a natural progression where you start with sort of animism. It evolves into a pantheon where you have multiple gods. And then over time, they get names and they become kind of less abstracted. And I love it. Yeah, a completely unbiased source. And then eventually, well, it doesn't always happen. Sometimes it stays, polytheism, but we've also seen the progression to monotheism. That happens sometimes too, where all of the gods get consolidated. And that's what happened under the Canaanite region. And so you had El, he was the father god. And oh my goodness, we could really get lost in this, because there's so much fun biblical evidence of this. It's right there, like in the name Israel, God contends. The name references El, that father god. And oh goodness, I don't know a good clean way to summarize this, but essentially you had this kind of ancient belief in El, and then Yahweh was considered this local god, even though he wasn't ever named anywhere as like part of that pantheon of 70 children gods. The idea was that you had the early Jewish people or Israelites. This is where what term you use gets a little dicey based on the origin of those words. But whatever you want to call them, that people group, the Hebrews, they had this God who was local to them. His name was Yahweh, or the Yoktan that we pronounce as Yahweh. And then over time, there was this sort of period somewhere around like the 10th century BCE to roughly the 8th century BCE, where he started to get conflated. He was elevated to El, like he became the father god. And there's so many fascinating little references to this. Like there's even a passage, I think in, Genesis 6. Wait, no. Anyways, well, wherever it is, where like God says like, hey, you knew me as El Shaddai, but now you should call me Yahweh. That's my current name. Because there was this sort of conflation, and you had the northern kingdom of Israel that was more traditional in that worship of El, and the southern kingdom was the Yahweh cult, and then they sort of blended together. And I missed that comment.
Sorry. I'll pull it back up. Sorry, Mark.
Just like what happened with Abrahamism. Yep. And so the Bible gives us this kind of encoded partial history of all of these conflations. And you had like one of the kingdoms looked at certain fathers, like Abraham, and then the other looked at fathers like Isaac and Jacob, and they put those stories together. Same thing with the 12 tribes of Israel. They were sort of like they were taking all these disparate groups and saying, hey, guess what? Actually, all of your ancestors were brothers, and they were all part of this one happy family. And that's where this whole myth of the fathers of the monotheistic faiths came from, to sort of give everyone this unifying framework.
This and get like it started with God, and then we go on down to like and then God's manifestation within Abraham, and then Adam led to Abraham, and Abraham led to David, and David led to blah blah blah. Like, yeah, I get it, totally get it. Yeah. I totally get it. And then you have generational like lifespans, like central, like 900 years, and I'm like, wow, that's impressive. Are you an elf?
Right. Yeah. Like, a lot of us remember like Methuselah was supposed to have lived 969 years, the oldest human who ever lived.
What's really funny?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. Like, okay. So that's the thing about Methuselah, but I'm gonna make a point. But finish what you're gonna say.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, most people don't realize that the Bible says Adam lived for 930 years, and if you overlap these, like a third of human history, if you believe, the Bible's chronology, was occupied by these, people who lived absurdly long lives.
So, because oh my God, where was I going? I had a thought
about Methuselah.
So, but with with the multiple generations, somebody got out of Christianity, and they were like a hardcore believer, and they were gay, and they were like, they had prayed to God like to not make them gay anymore. But what happened was, it was all those long timelines. It never mentions when these beings died. So, because like the generational, because then that would give you an actual date, right?
Yes.
So, and that's when he started to question. He was like, why doesn't the Bible mention when they died? Oh, you're going to go grab something.
Well, something relevant. Okay. You mentioned that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I have here a copy of Adam's synchronological chart. And it gives...
Did you show this on my last stream?
Did I bring this up before? That sounds like
I think you did, but okay. For people that are here that have not seen this, I thought this was really cool.
Well, it was this guy from the 1800s. He actually ended up being like, I think, an Alaska senator, and he made this chart of his understanding of all of human history, and it's incredibly long. If I stretched it out, it's bigger than this room. And let's see here. Oh yeah, we see Adam, Methuselah, Shem, Isaac, Levi. Okay, but it's showing their lifespans and how they overlap. Here's Noah, who's born here. And we get to a point where they hit the flood. Oh, yeah, here we go. All right, I don't know how well you can see that, but that black line that extends down, I'm not doing a good job getting close to the camera. That's the deluge.
Hold on, let me see if I can. Hold on one second. Let me adjust my video. We'll see what happens. Will this work? I don't know. We'll see what happens, guys.
This is the key moment here. I think I found it.
Okay.
All right. So here's how you have Methuselah, who lived 969 years, Lamech, who lived 777 years. When you do the math, you find out that Lamech died 5 years before the flood, but Methuselah, he gives out right at the flood, meaning he probably died in the flood, according to the story. Kind of crazy. If you do the math, which this guy definitely did, because he was obsessed with making, this chart of all known human history. It's also like just like super racist and weird. Anyways,
probably.
You reminded me of that.
I love, that's the thing. Like, if you think you can do all of human history on one map, try, my dude, try. You can do like one civilization, maybe.
And of course, it leaves out like the Mali Empire and all kinds of like really important things that happen amongst brown-skinned people.
Did it do like the Persian Empire or any of that?
It did. It included at least the Persian Empire. They get some shrift in there. Anyways, we both got far afield there, but that was fun.
So when did the church decide this adversary guy, we have a thing here we could turn into what we're going to make our believers be afraid of? When was that?
So it happened by the authorship of the Gospels. So Satan, as we know him, is mostly present in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Mark being the first of those written. He is a character in the narrative. Jesus does interact with him. Jesus is tempted in the desert. All of that is, what got kind of cemented in history as the nature of Satan. But there was a long precedent before that, and then a lot of work put into reinterpreting the Jewish Bible to match that more modern conception. Oh yeah, I didn't mention earlier the first person to explicitly say that Satan was the snake, the talking serpent in the Garden of Eden, was Justin Martyr, who was one of the early church fathers. But he was saying this in the early to mid 2nd century. So
I spell it M-A-R-T. Oh, first apologist.
Yeah, Justin Martyr. So he's responsible for a few bad thoughts that we have about the Bible, but that was one that he sort of introduced as explicitly saying it.
AD 155 to 157. That's some time after the Bible.
Yeah, right. So the texts of the Bible were all done and solidified by the time that someone actually suggested that. And you did have kind of earlier hints of it in apocalyptic literature. That this Satan character was the one present in the garden, like in the wisdom.
Is that where we get the name? Is that where we get the word martyr from?
Yeah.
No shit. What?
Oh, wait. I think he's called Justin Martyr because he was a martyr. I'm not.
Okay. Sure, I thought it was like his given name.
No, I think he got called a martyr because he's said to have died for the faith. I think the causality.
His name was born in the first of all, Justin Martyr was born between 155 and 150 and dressed as a Roman Emperor Antonius Pius. So yeah. All right.
Okay, so the word martyr originates from the ancient Greek word martis or martyr, which means witness.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
In the first few centuries of Christianity, it took on its modern meaning to describe believers who witnessed to their faith by choosing death over renouncing their beliefs. Okay, so I think he kind of is called Justin Martyr because he was a martyr.
All right. So I did early Christian writing, and that linked over there. So to get you some more of that and the history, and there's also a whole Wikipedia page, surprisingly, because of course there is. Yeah.
Yes. Well, yeah, I love that. There is so much good material on the internet, and of course, there's wrong material on the internet. You have to use all the normal
sources.
discretion. Yeah, exactly. But there's a lot of good scholarship out there and really fun stuff to read. So he was the first to state it outright, but earlier in Jewish apocalyptic literature, which was again like coming about in that intertestamental period between the authorship of the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament, you had works like Enoch, the Book of Enoch, the Wisdom of Solomon made kind of a metaphorical connection, sort of suggesting that Satan introduced sin into the world. So that was kind of a suggestion that it might be the snake. But yeah, that's sort of the time at which Satan became a character. And again, I think it was modeled on their observation of Zoroastrianism in, the Persian countries,
Right.
that they were witnessing other cultures have this belief in sort of the good and the bad polar opposite deities. And that got interpreted, okay, well, you can't get rid of your one God. So instead, we're going to have this secondary figure be a fallen angel. What'll we call him? Oh, look at all these stories in the Old Testament. Satan. We'll turn that from the Satan into Satan with a capital S. And that's how we got that modern character.
That's so interesting. And then the popularity of Dante's Inferno, just like, because that's a lot of modern interpretation. Like even if you watch a movie made by a Baptist, all the imagery, like if you watch like those end time movies and stuff like that, like all that imagery comes from like Dante's Inferno, like because there is no like is eternal torment mentioned in the Bible, or like
a little bit.
Okay.
Selectively. Yeah, you really have to pick and choose. But yeah, like in the story of not Lazarus who was raised from the dead, but there's another Lazarus who gets mentioned in the Bible. What's that?
I just feel like, okay, there's this thing about being raised from the dead. Okay, like, okay, what is dead? Because we know that dead is different than what we thought was dead. So one. Two. Okay, two. Like death, like dead is not death. Like dead is like technically you're dead, but you could be like kept alive, or like you might come back, whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's death, you are dead, like there is no
Yeah.
more existence. You're just matter.
You're hitting on a major kind of controversy and doctrinal debate that's happened over centuries, because there are passages you can point to that clearly show death is final and you are no more, done deal. That was more the Jewish Bible belief. They talked about Sheol, but there was no belief in like eternal punishment or reward.
The Jewish death, the Sheol death. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And so that was as close as you got to an afterlife. But when Abraham was, finding the faith and had the covenant, and he had to circumcise himself and his children, all of that, it wasn't so that he could have everlasting life. It was so that he would have many offspring and that his name would be remembered that way. And that he would have lots of livestock. Those were the rewards in the Hebrew Bible. And that's another one of those ideas alongside Satan that evolved in time for the New Testament. So you had this debate at the time of Jesus that was still very active. And that's where you hear about the Pharisees and the Sadducees, where the Sadducees were the more traditional ones. They were tied to the central cult and the temple. They're the ones who didn't believe in a resurrection or an afterlife. They were the traditionalists. And it was the Pharisees. They were kind of the street preachers. They were the ones who were accepting these new ideas that had come from other cultures about an afterlife, and that you could have eternal punishment or reward.
So where did the Gnostics come from then?
So the Gnostics were kind of a collection of different beliefs after the composition of the New Testament. They had different answers to these questions that were raging at the time. Like, what is the nature of Jesus? Is he real and corporeal? Could you have touched him? Or was he just pretending to eat food and like hiding it in the jar or the vase nearby or something? There were all these debates about like, is he really God, or is he human?
So was this more of a philosophical sect of believers that were trying to figure out the nature of God? And
there was no one group that was called the Gnostics. It's sort of a collection of different solutions to these theological debates. And in the kind of central organizing idea of Gnosticism is that it's salvation is all tied to knowledge. So there's like usually the Gnostic beliefs would point to
See,
like
and it takes us right back to the
knowledge is
awareness
always the
of the
bad thing.
beginning. Is that the
Yeah,
beginning starts when, like, everybody's walking around like a fucking toddler, and
yeah,
then danger is really when when you have a sense that there's boundaries of like safety that I have, and
hmm
you start gaining that at like 2, 3 years old. Like, you are a separate entity from your parent. There
hmm
is you were that's why they hear 2-year-old say no. That is the
right,
beginning of it, right? That's why we always say, like, when we're talking about the Bible, I'm like, you basically, God was like, he let his toddlers just kind of run around. But the thing is, I was like, it's like a loaded gun. I'm like, no, I'm like, the snake is wisdom. The snake is coming and going, you are a separate entity from your parent. You have to make choices, and the choices that you're going to make are going to have consequences. That
right.
is what the snake represents. Like,
And all of this very healthy
yeah.
exploration of boundaries and questioning authority, all of that, it should be very healthy and encouraged. And instead, it gets associated with hellfire and damnation and Satan,
And women.
and women, right? Yeah,
And
dirty,
women,
evil
and our evil
sexuality.
vagina
Ugh.
magic.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
it's like, okay. Like, I'm sorry.
yeah.
And I'm
No,
like, you should have been sitting there like, girl, why are you talking to a snake? Like, that would be like the next logical question would be like, why are you talking to a snake? I'm like, well, the snake told me eat the fruit. And I'm like,
right.
okay, but he was just like, okay, like, I'm gonna eat the fruit. And then he knew, he moved into that awareness of like, oh fuck. Like, oh fuck. And
hmm
because in ancient matriarchal religion, it was the female that had all the knowledge of life and death.
Mm, mm.
They bestowed them knowledge onto their tribes, because
Ah,
it was a belief, because they didn't understand the biological nature of sexuality. They understood that people bled when they died, but for some reason women bled and they didn't die.
oh,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. And then they knew that joining with a man created life. They knew that there was sexual pleasure involved with that. So they understood that. But they also knew that, like, beings died. So for the symbolism of these ancient tribes and the psychology is that, oh, and this is pre-literate. This is like these are we're talking about your like this is all like verbal traditions that are passed down and things like that. But these early beliefs of like the female knew that's why you had your medicine woman, and then you had
Yeah.
your men go out and do like the hunting and do the lot of physical labor, and that was their purpose. But for the woman was the woman that brought forth life and death and held all the knowledge. They were the knowledge keepers, and then they would bestow that knowledge onto the men.
Oh, okay.
So
Fascinating. Fascinating.
paganism is a trip.
Yeah.
But if you're interpreting that from these ancient ancient Israelites that had they are coming from these polytheistic animistic traditions, but now once we started developing agriculture and we actually got to think and we want to create an actual society and culture, that's when you see the shift more into what is our society going to look like. And as you progress through time, and also you see more sexism develop more under patriarchal faiths.
Okay. Fascinating. I mean, it makes all the sense in the world, right?
Yeah, like if you just this is the thing, like once you get like pre-Christianity and learn like all these old pagan stuff.
And
I was in the pagan world.
yeah.
I was a pagan priestess for a reason, because it lends to that feministic belief. But the thing is,
Mhm.
though, then when you start believing in like woo-woo shit,
Yeah.
that's when it
Well,
turns bad,
and I mean, it's so helpful to learn these kind of filters to understand the Bible and where it came from, because alongside asking when was it written and by whom, you should be asking for what reason. And typically it was for control and all the things that people
Politics.
want: sex, money, control, power. And yeah, if you look at belief in the afterlife, it kind of nicely coincides with desire to exert control, like in the form of building an army. It's way more effective to tell, your soldiers, hey, go kill yourself on my behalf. I'm angry at this other kingdom, but if you die, you're going to have wonderful riches. You will be sitting at the right hand of the Father, or you will receive X number of young nubile women. These are the things that you tell people to exert control.
Well, okay, so let's go back to like ancient times, okay, and when these books were written, okay, your young men are defending a tribe, and the average age is 30, between like your mid to late 30s, okay, so you got it, so that's the time you got, okay. So what are you gonna do? And you're like, okay, well, I only got so much time, so I have to defend my tribe, but I also have to procreate and carry on my genealogy, and we also need children to work, but also we also know that there's this high mortality rate and all this shit, and there's an obsession becomes with being youthful. Okay, so that's why you see a lot of the patriarchy worshiping the young, because that is considered where the value is, because that is where a lot of that concentration is, because there's this idea that you only got so much time, you got to progenerate while you're here. Cool, you might get eternal life, but for that, but you also want your genealogy to be on, because the whole thing about generations inheriting wealth and power and privilege and whatever the fuck you get, but that's the whole thing. It's the all inherit, the meek shall inherit the earth. That's the whole fucking thing, and that's where those conceptuals come from, because you're meek, you are going to die.
Yeah. Well, and like you're saying, right alongside the desire for riches and wealth was the desire for more, immortality. And you have two forms of that. If you can find some way to extend your life into the indefinite future, but also if you can have more offspring. And that's why, alongside all these other animistic gods, you had fertility gods. That was one of the major, types of deities, is because you wanted assurance of procreative power. I'll share again if you want to pull it up. You'd asked about does the Bible actually present torture, eternal torture? And yeah, there are smatterings, and they're inconsistent. And the Bible gives you passages that makes it seem that you just die and you're gone. But then you get passages like in Luke 16:23, it says, in Hades, where he was being tormented, he lifted up his eyes and saw Abraham far away with Lazarus by his side. Now, this is embarrassing here. I remember as a Christian looking at this and being like, wait, why are we mentioning Hades? That's from the wrong comic book. That's the wrong mythology. Why are you naming Hades?
Wow, what was the Greeks influencing ancient Israel? What?
Yeah, I mean, oops. It just seems like a real oversight. Similarly, you have Jesus talking in Mark chapter 9. He says, let's see, better for you to enter life maimed than to have two hands and go to hell, to the unquenchable fire. It is better for you to enter life lame than to have 2 feet and be thrown into hell. Better for you to enter the kingdom of God with one eye than to have 2 eyes and be thrown into hell, where the worm never dies and the fire is never quenched. So you get passages like that, and also in Revelation where they talk about throwing the beast into the pit, the lake of fire. So the Bible does give you potent imagery to pull from to construct this vision of hell as a place of eternal torment. But the Bible isn't consistent.
This is love, guys. This is love.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Do exactly as I say, or I will destroy and torment you. But free choice is very important.
I thank you. But that doesn't make that makes more sense though. That you have all your appendages, because doesn't that give more to be tortured from? Like really. Also, piss.
Oh, I promised some other fun stuff. So let's see. Let me show Psalm 74.
Okay.
Let's talk about Leviathan.
All right, I'm going to refill my wine. Hold on. Talk about Psalm 74. I can hear you. I'm going to go refill my wine.
Okay, sounds good.
I'll be right back.
Very good.
Because I'm really enjoying myself. I'm learning so much. Okay, I'll be right back.
Okay, so here we have found, all right, from Psalm 74. So this is the Old Testament. And I should preface this by saying that when I was a believer, I remember being intensely interested in Job chapter 40 because it mentions both the Leviathan, this big sea serpent, this ancient serpent of old that we talked about. I remembered that reference to Leviathan, and it also mentions Behemoth. And at the time, I thought that these were references to dinosaurs because they described the behemoth as having this like massive tail. So, I thought it was this land dwelling dinosaur. And, anyways, creationists still believe this stuff, something that I believed. And then Leviathan was this other like aquatic dinosaur, according to my belief. But I wasn't familiar with these other mentions of Leviathan. And this passage in Psalm 74 is kind of yet another creation myth that gets baked into the Bible. And it sort of talks about God laying down the foundations of the earth. So here goes. And I assume you're still in earshot as you're grabbing wine. Yet my God Yet God, my King, is from old, working salvation in the earth. You divided the sea by your might. You broke the heads of the dragons in the waters. And let's see, what are we? Oh yeah, new
I
life
am at.
standard.
I have
Oh, very
one.
good.
I'm good.
This is this alternative creation myth found in Psalms, and it's talking about God, the King from old. You crushed the heads of Leviathan, so that's where we know that it
Yes,
had
Dave.
multiple heads.
Yes, it's definitely references.
That's funny. I thought they were references to metal bands. 100% this is fodder for metal band names. Big
Oh
time.
my God. That's why you had all the Paris pissed during the Satanic Panic. Like,
There's very little in the Bible, but it's potent material what's there.
oh, it's so good.
You gave him as food for the creatures of the wilderness. You cut openings for springs and torrents. You dried up ever flowing streams. So, what we have here is a description of God defeating this giant sea monster. And it's so large that he creates parts of the earth by cutting open the dead carcass of the Leviathan. And it sounds a lot like these Norse myths where you had like a giant who was slain and his knees became the mountains, or whatever. It's very similar to that.
That's very,
Yours is,
yeah, that is a very like the ice giants and
Mhm.
the creature, and then the fire giants that created like the heavens and the earth. And
These are things that don't get shared in Sunday school, but it's right there in the Bible. Yours is the day, yours is also the night. You established the luminaries and the sun. You have fixed all the bounds of the earth. You made summer and winter. So, what's fascinating is there's also, let me pull up another passage about Leviathan, Isaiah 27. Oh, by the way, did you see that footage recently of Russell Brand on Piers Morgan, where he was in court because he's being outed as a sexual predator, and
right.
he had his Bible with him in court, and Piers Morgan asks him, "Hey, what verse were you going to go to in your Bible?" And Russell Brand says, "Thank you for asking. Well, I had this passage in Isaiah," and he keeps opening his Bible and he flips around. He's looking for this passage, and it's like a comedy bit. He just keeps searching and searching, and he can't find it. And he keeps saying, "Oh, here it is." And then he waits another like 20 seconds, and he's like, "Oh, I think I found it." And he waits another 20 seconds. It's hilarious.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
He never finds it. It's so funny. Anyways,
Wow. Are we telling on ourselves? Are we telling on ourselves?
exactly. Yeah. Or have we
Yeah.
conveniently found religion because it helps right now when we're being
Like
outed for
Like
being.
Mark Wahlberg conveniently found religion, like,
Mhm.
yeah, like, okay, I'm waiting for James Franco to find religion and Ryan Reynolds. Like, I'm just waiting for it. Just
Or are
wait.
they having a moment? Okay, so in Isaiah chapter 27, it says, "On that day the Lord with his cruel and great and strong sword will punish Leviathan, the fleeing serpent."
That's a random presidential Christian.
Yep.
That's readable, hypocritical, sanctimonious, and completely full of shit. Exactly.
Yep. Completely right on.
Yeah.
Okay, so on that day, the Lord will punish Leviathan, the fleeing serpent, Leviathan, the twisting serpent, and he will kill the dragon that is in the sea. So this is very interesting because this passage almost exactly mirrors in its wording, even referring to Leviathan as the fleeing serpent, Leviathan, the twisting serpent. This almost exactly mirrors passages that we found in Ugaritic texts, like meaning other Canaanite regions that predate the Bible by hundreds of years, certainly this passage from the Bible, that refer to Baal, the god, doing that exact same thing, defeating the sea monster, who in that telling is named Lotan. Yep. Yep.
No.
So what we have is some sort of either cultural borrowing or some indication that this belief existed long before in the general Canaanite culture. This belief that Baal defeated or Baal or whatever you want to call him.
Ball.
Yeah,
I like
we'll call him Baal.
It sounds like he was having a party.
That Baal was the one defeating Lotan, the sea serpent, and even like the earlier accounts used words for fleeing and twisting. So it looks pretty clear that the Bible was just sort of like taking a Baal story and applying it to Yahweh, which is actually a theme. Baal is like the main other god who's sort of like an adversary. I'm overusing that term now in this conversation, but is like this main other bad god. Like, don't follow him. He's kind of an
asshole. He's an asshole.
Yeah, right. But
she don't like that. We don't like that guy.
he was a storm god, and like Baal was defined as riding upon the clouds. And shoot, I don't have it prepared, but riding on the clouds. There are parallel passages in the Bible where God is described as
nice day.
Where God is described as riding upon the clouds. Also, there's some embarrassing moments where you like when you think of the holy mountain of God. Do you think of like a particular mount? What do we normally think of?
Mount Vesuvius
starts with a Z. Mount Zion. Is
I went with Mount Vesuvius. That's like, not correct.
Like Mount Zion, that's where Moses received
Mount Zion. Okay, yeah. Listen, I do not know my Bible. Well, because I grew up Catholic. Yeah, I had a priest. I had a priest who interpreted my Bible for me.
Well, like
Ross.
But these names follow us into culture. So like when you watch The Matrix, their special land, where the humans live away from the machines is called Zion. So that's in the
have you played Shadow of the Colossus?
Have I? Wait, no.
It's Shadow of the Colossus.
I know which one you're talking about, but no, I haven't played it.
So the main antagonist god. So the god is basically this being called Dorman, which is Nimrod backwards, is separated into 16 pieces. And you play this dude that wants to bring his girlfriend back to life, or sister, probably girlfriend, because she was bestowed a terrible fate. And so he goes out and kill these 16 huge colossus. It's basically a 16 boss fights. Like okay. So you just go. It's the best game. If you love if you like video games, you have to play this game. It is like one of the best games of all time. Like, no joke. Okay, so you go out and you have to kill all these 16 beasts of these huge colossi, right?
Yeah.
And then you come back and you bring your girlfriend back to life. But the thing is, though, is because you now release this, this demon into the world, it takes over your body. So, spoiler for a 20-year-old video game, but it's so completely worth the game. And everything you're describing, I'm like, it just sounds like Shadow of the Colossus. It just sounds like Shadow of the Colossus.
But we encounter these things in culture, and then we realize where they came from. Like Nimrod is a name that comes from the Bible. He was a great hunter, and also a Green Day album.
Right.
So,
but
anyway, so like, we associate God with Mount Zion, but we kind of forget also that in these days of ancient gods, that you would have a God who lived on a mountain. And so whereas Yahweh lived on Mount Zion, you had Baal lived on Mount Zaphon, and that was far north in Syria, or modern day Syria. That was known as his region. And there's some embarrassing passages.
I gotta get you and David Fitzgerald on the same podcast. Like,
Oh,
I gotta
oh
get
yeah,
you and
we could
David
have fun
together.
talking for sure.
Have
And
you
like,
have you met David? Have you?
maybe briefly. I think we met at a Sacramento Free Thought Day, I want to say.
I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna make
Okay,
it
yeah,
happen.
let's make it happen.
I'm gonna make it happen. I waited like other things. Keep going. Sorry.
But there's some embarrassing passages in the Hebrew Bible that essentially put Yahweh on Mount Zaphon and kind of break they're borrowing Baal stories, and they're putting Yahweh in the wrong geographic location and saying he lives on Mount Zaphon. Oops, we copied our Baal story a little sloppily. So
what?
yeah, it's like there's quite a few indications that not only was Baal considered like a rival god, but that Yahweh was kind of patterned after Baal, and that there was like this effort in the Bible for the Yahweh cultists to distinguish him from Baal. In fact, wait, let me look this up real quick. I think it's Hosea 2. All right, I'm going to share again. Let's see here. This is another passage that you will never see in Sunday school or preached in church. And let's see. Am I sharing? There we go.
There you go.
On that day, says the Lord, you will call me my husband, and no longer will you call me my Baal. For I will remove the names of the Baals from her mouth, and they shall be mentioned by name no more.
That's what she said.
yeah.
Sorry.
That's where the pronunciation can create problems. Absolutely. I will make for you a covenant, blah, 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 blah. But you have here like this lowercase, like not referring to a single individual, kind of like we talked about with Satan, but this is more of a title where Baal just meant master. And so the message here was, you will no longer call me your master. Instead, you're going to call me your Lord, my husband. So essentially what's happening here is that they're trying to train people who are used to worshiping Baal in this land to say, no, we actually worship Yahweh instead. So let's stop saying Baal. Let's start calling him by this
colonialism.
Yeah. So anyways,
it's colonialism to the ancient Israelites,
right.
Basically, and it will take 2 generations for them to completely switch over to a new god. This has been scientifically and statistically studied that if you erase that culture, that the next generation doesn't have the past 2 generations that teach them their culture, it gets completely lost.
Exactly. Yeah. And that you see that pattern when immigrants encourage children not to speak in the language of the homeland,
like what they did for the Native American children, or for the children that were taken as slaves over to the United States, that they couldn't speak their African languages. They had to learn English.
We saw it with open racism in the US, that the more you make it so that you're uncomfortable talking publicly first about your racist ideas, the less likely it is to transmit to others. You might still do it at home when no one's looking or watching. And then with Trump coming to prominence, we saw all of this, what had been kind of under the hood.
Out loud.
Yeah, just exactly. Now all of a sudden everyone feels free to let all that crud come out, which then just propagates itself. I think you're. But it also gets
the rest of us to go, yeah, not great. Can't do that.
Right.
Right. All human beings are equals. And even non-human animals, like life is valid.
And it takes a few generations to do that, and we haven't had enough time to really stamp that out. That's why it was still sitting there.
It's going to take time. And also
Yeah.
too, like this is the thing, like I keep reminding, like we're gonna live in a pluralist society, you know. So
Mhm.
if we're gonna live in a pluralist society, guess what? You're allowed to like. I don't care what you believe in. I don't. It just don't tell me my identity and how I relate to the world. Like,
Mhm.
don't tell me that way is wrong because at the end of the day, I don't know. At the end of the day, I don't know if God exists. Like, I don't know. Do I think so? Probably not. But again, I'm willing to have my mind change. And also, too, like, because if I say no, absolutely not, or yes, absolutely 100%, I'm not giving that space to learn. Like, unless you can say, like, it's
Mhm.
a fact, like, water is wet, like, fine. But if
Yeah.
we're talking about a God, I'm like, okay, what God are we talking about? What, because if a
Right.
God exists, it's not anything that we've come up with, you
Yeah,
know.
and if it's something that you like the manipulation and the forcefulness of these beliefs, I think speaks to how weak they are. Like, you don't
Right.
have to tell someone something repeatedly. Like, I don't have to go back anywhere. I don't have to go to an equivalent of a church or Sunday school to be reminded every week that the earth is spherical or an oblate spheroid or whatever,
Right.
because it makes sense. It calculates in the real world. I don't have to be reminded. But if something feels counterintuitive and it forces us to believe absurd things, that requires repetition and forceful belief and monitoring to make sure that you're towing the line.
Right. Or if you arrive to a place where, like, I have a belief, but I don't believe in the structure, you know, like
Yeah.
it's people
Yeah.
that, they deconstruct, they still believe in a God, but the
Yeah.
structure of religion doesn't hold weight to them anymore. I have way more respect for that because religion is manipulated by men.
Oh,
And I mean
yeah.
people with penises.
Yeah. Well,
So
and yeah,
one joke I like by Bill Maher. Yes.
nice.
Also a sexist.
Yeah. Um, So, just as we have kind of, I think you kind of tied together the kind of connection to the present really well. Is that just as today we have like our own set of dogmas that are being pushed on a generation, the Bible encodes these previous rounds of people trying to solve religious problems and assert new truisms to say, okay, we are replacing El with Yahweh, we are replacing Baal with Yahweh, all of those other gods, which were other gods in the pantheon, now they're being demoted. They're actually just demons. El's consort, you had a mother god named Asherah, and the Bible is full of references to like, you must go and strike down all the Asherah poles. You must make sure that they are completely obliterated and burned
Let's go
down.
bomb Iran because they worship a different version of God than we do. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
it's all
And
the same shit.
so, yeah, all of this is kind of there's little vestiges of it preserved that still are in the Bible. And so I think it's super fascinating to find those passages that don't fit within that nice clean dogma that's been arrived at after hundreds of years. And yeah, that's what I find fun about digging up these bits of the Bible that were glossed over, not understood when I was a Christian.
Because and I think also too, like I would like I raised like I was pagan when I raised my kids were really small, but also like my dad, my it's very weird growing up like in a religious household with my father, who wanted and like did not like religion, but like the idea of God, but would like he was the one that we would watch like nature on PBS and
Oh,
Cosmos. And my
right.
mom watched the same thing with me. Like Catholic was tradition. It wasn't like if you do not hold to this belief, we will not love you. You cannot be part of the
Yeah.
in group. Like, we had friends from different cultures, and because like you're just influenced by it. But
Mhm.
but when I so for me, like the leaving of belief was super easy. Like even in paganism, I was like, listen, I'm like, I want to believe. This is me. I want to believe that there is something ethereal going on, that there might be like, a reincarnation or some kind of shit. But then after a while, I was like, I just don't know. But like, so I'm going to stick with the things that can be proven. And then we can debate philosophy later. Thank you. Because psychology and philosophy, they wear a lot of the same hats. You
Mhm.
know, I would say philosophy is how do you know what you know, and then taking that knowledge and how do you interpret it into the reality and the mind that you are you have to exist with, you know.
Yeah. And all of that should be done. That exploration, that questioning, should all be done in the spirit of just like, let's arrive at truth. And the second that you start threatening the like familial bonds, like we may no longer love you and welcome you in our house, that tells me that your faith is pretty weak.
That's the destructive. I was listening to Heliocentric, and he was talking about the shunning of and I've heard this from people from when the shunning and Jehovah's Witnesses and other cults is the thing that I cannot, like my family and I, we have issues, but like belief is not one. Like my brothers know I'm an atheist. They like a couple of my brothers are kind of like, I don't understand why you are, but you still love our parents and you love us. So, and you're a good person. So I'll just kind of accept it, even though we're going to agree to disagree. I will push back on bad ideas, but we have this understanding of but we're siblings and we love each other. Like we're family, because my parents taught us family is the most important thing. Not even belief is important. Like family is,
That's important. And, I'm really grateful for that in my family, even though there are members of my family who very much, pray for my salvation and are very sad that I'm not a believer. I am very thankful that they prioritize
You're
family.
Dirty heathen.
Yeah. I'm a
pray
dirty
for your
heathen,
soul and hope.
but they still love me and assume that somewhere down the line, I will become a great evangelist again or something.
No Illusions was talking about his parents, they were his dad was a believer, and his mom still is, but they were proud of him about they were believers, but he is a scathing atheist, and he's out there, but he's they're proud of who he is, and he does something that he cares about and has strong convictions about. That's the whole point. And even where you are on the spectrum, at the end of the day, when it comes to belief, and it's always good to know, not only history, but the culture and the psychology and the philosophy of the people living at the time that they are. I guarantee people will be looking at us at 1,000 years if we somehow survive ourselves. And looking at us going look at all the weird stuff they believe then. It's always going to happen. Yeah. So that's what it is. So thank you so much, Ross, for being here. I love this. I'm going to get you and David together. I'm going to make it happen. Because I think, because he has a lot of this knowledge, and just getting the two minds together and have you guys bounce off to each other would just make my brain juices so flowing. I'm going to have a brain-gasm. It's going to be great.
Fun.
All right. Thank you so much for being here. Hey, everybody. Guess what? Okay, Ross, you have some new shit coming up. Tell the people. I thought you knew shit.
Well, I have a long promised new podcast that's supposed to be coming out. I'm not going to make any promises about when, because I'm still focused on other projects in the meantime. So definitely, though, if you follow me on social media, you will hear about it when I do launch.
Yes, I will share. The social medias are also in the doobly-doo. I'm also going to put them back in the chat. So do that. No, that is not what I want. That was about the first martyr, which was my last link. So hold on. So it's definitely in the doobly-doo, guys. I am a professional podcaster. Watch me do stuff. Don't. It's embarrassing. Don't do that. Also, I'm going to remind everybody that I am. Okay. See the hashtag, the QR code in the corner. What you're going to do? You're going to go donate to Black non-believers. You're going to do that. Okay. We're going to get 50K for 15 years. Also, I'm going to be at the Revival for a Reason, and I'm going to be social mediaing, and I will be doing live interviews. I'm going to have some exclusives going on. So shit going to be coming up. So please donate. You're not going to go to Starbucks this week. You're not. You're going to give $5 to Black non-believers. So we can keep, because the work that Mandisa and her org and all the women people are part of it. and all the chapters they have across the country are really important, and we want them to expand to reach out to communities that don't look like me and Ross. So, and that's really important, and that's why I'm helping them raise all this fucking money. Because also some of the people I love most in the world are belong to this org, like Medianza, Cynthia, and Kelly, and it's going to be awesome. So guys, do the thing. So do that. Speaking of that, Candace Gorman will be here on Tuesday. What are we going to talk about? Don't know. And I think next Thursday, Jamie the Blind Liming is going to be on from the ACA. So please tune in for that. Go follow Ross on the socials. They are down my doobly doo. Ross, I'm definitely gonna have you back. I love talking, man. Like you like I'm always like I'm learning so much stuff. So thank you so much for being part of the show. Ross, what has been on RFRX. That's how we met. So go, because he's center of inquiry and Rob Palmer. That's how I meet people.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. I will see you on Tuesday. As a reminder, be kind, stay skeptical, give someone a compliment, and I will see you all later. Bye. Good night.
Bye.